Religious freedom, a basic right which was viewed so highly by our founding fathers that they put it in the First Amendment of the Constitution. However, religion, or more specifically the lack of religion, has become somewhat of a hot-button issue in America. An excellent example of this is that in the states of Arkansas, Maryland, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas, atheists are prohibited from holding public office. Is this really freedom of religion? And how do atheists, the group that is directly affected by these laws, feel about their country allowing laws like these to exist?
Obviously, I would guess you believe in religious freedom, so how does it make you feel when you see that there are laws like in Texas and Maryland and Arkansas that prohibit people who are atheists, legally prohibit them from holding office?
It really disappoints me because one of the things I think that makes America so great compared to other countries is that we really spout this belief of freedom all the time, and I think a big part of freedom is being able to believe what you want. You know, as long as it's rational and not hurting anyone else.
Honestly, I didn't know that those laws weren't in place until today. Honestly, I just think that it's very sad that a country founded on religious freedom does things now in our society that are clearly inhibiting people's religious freedom.
I think religion's one of those things that everyone needs to find their own path in life that follows, that makes you feel comfortable at the end of the day. And if that's being Muslim or being a Buddhist or not having a religion at all, I think that's up to the individual person, and I don't think that has it doesn't have any merit in a discussion involving the way things are run in this country or politics. I think those kind of issues should be on a lower scale when we talk about politics in this country.
Inasmuch as atheism is taking a position on the importance, or in this case lack of importance, of sort of supernatural agency in society, in an individual life, in the universe, in that sense it is an ideological position that in a constitutional sense logically should be protected under the separation of church and state. And so it's a belief system, it's an ideology. And that is not the way traditional religious communities view atheism. The more traditional religious communities consider atheism to be something like a failure at doing their religion properly. So whatever the primary religious tradition of the region would be, say in America, traditionally Christianity, but you would find this to be the same in Turkey with Islam, or in Israel with Judaism. So it would not just be unique to America. It would be a common kind of problem you would find in a democratic culture that had these kinds of concerns and had at least one dominant religious tradition. There are many, many religions in America, but Christianity is the sort of numerically and culturally, symbolically dominant one. And so atheism, as defined by Christianity, is a failure of belief. And so under that way of thinking, atheism would not be protected as a religion, because it's like just being bad at your actual religion, which is really Christianity. Because if you think that's the only religion, then say not believing in God is just a defiance of God. And so one of the things that any religious tradition typically has to struggle with is religions tend to anchor their ideologies, their beliefs, and their ideas in unprovable and unfalsifiable premises. And so they are not subjected to the same kind of intellectual investigation as we could a football game, where we know what all the rules are so we could analyze it. It's not too big to understand. But if you make the foundation of your system of ideas ones that cannot be verified or falsified, then a whole other set of rules and also legal protections sort of fall into place for you. And that is, and so in all of those senses, atheism probably ought to be protected as a religious tradition. And even some atheists might be upset or disappointed with them being characterized as such. But in the sense of that is, they are making a claim about the foundation of belief, society, idea by what they're saying. And and some of those claims are neither provable nor falsifiable as a belief system.
How does it make you feel when people on campus are like passing out Bibles or doing stuff like that, or openly preaching on campus? Does that make you feel uncomfortable?
It doesn't really
as an
bother me
atheist?
at all because I'm very strong in what I believe in, and nothing that they can say will change my beliefs in any way. But at the same time, I just think of it as a huge double standard because I know that if I was out there giving out upside down crosses or saying something about atheism, that people would hate it, and that people would hate me for it, and that people would, obviously not be happy about that if I said and did things. So I'm only mad about it because it's a double standard. They have the right to religious freedom just as I do. They can preach whatever they want. I just hate that I can't say anything about it without being called an idiot or being called insensitive to what they believe in and things like that.
Nobody really likes to have religion forced upon them, whether it's religion or the lack thereof. It's normally you have to come to those kind of things yourself and decide on them yourself.
You can find coercive forms of religion everywhere in the world, but at least at the ideological level, there are certain things about, say, the Taoist tradition historically in China, or the Buddhist tradition, not just in India, but in even the other places it went, having different concerns. And if your concerns are not about that you're right, and so therefore your will must be followed, if instead you're sort of saying, let me figure out what the problem is, if it's that kind of problem-solving kind of religious perspective, as opposed to I've got the answer already, and now I need to just disseminate the answer, and that's the Western model. And so it ends up that it sort of creates from the grassroots up a different kind of social attitude. And again, there's a whole bunch of nuance to all of that. And human beings in every case can either live out the most beautiful versions of their traditions, whatever they be, or ridiculous distortions of their own traditions, whatever they may be.